In this video, we're going to talk about the history of American architecture, so let's get started. For thousands of years before the establishment of the United States of America, the indigenous peoples of the United States had their own architectural traditions. The cultures of the indigenous peoples are highly diverse, and their architectural traditions reflect that diversity. Some of the most well-known examples of indigenous American architecture include the Pueblo of Taos, New Mexico, which are a series of buildings constructed by the Pueblo people starting in the 10th century, and the massive city of Teotihuacan in Mexico, which was built around the 1st century AD and served as the capital of the Teotihuacan Empire for several centuries. However, it was with the arrival of European colonists that the United States began to take on its distinct architectural character. The earliest European-style buildings in the United States were primarily constructed by the Spanish during their colonial period in the 16th and 17th centuries. These buildings were typically made of stone and featured elaborate decorations and designs. A prime example is the San Antonio de Valero Mission in Texas, also known as the Alamo, which was originally built in 1718 as a Spanish mission and later became a famous battle site during the Texas Revolution. During the same period, the British began to establish colonies in what would become the northeastern United States. The early British colonies were mostly made up of simple, wooden structures due to the abundance of timber in the region. One notable exception is the State House in Boston, which was built in 1713 and is one of the oldest public buildings in the United States. As the 18th century progressed, the 13 American colonies began to develop their own unique style of architecture known as Georgian architecture. This style was characterized by symmetrical facades, hipped roofs, and the use of brick and stone. Many of the buildings constructed during this period were used for government and public buildings as well as churches and universities. Examples include the Old South Meeting House in Boston, which was used for both political and social gatherings during the American Revolution, and the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, which was one of the first buildings designed specifically as a university. Following the American Revolution, the United States experienced a period of rapid growth and development. During this time, new states were added to the Union, cities expanded, and the country's infrastructure was greatly improved. This growth led to the development of new architectural styles such as Greek Revivalism and Gothic Revivalism. In the early 19th century, the United States began to embrace the ideals of classical antiquity, which led to the popularity of Greek Revival architecture. This style is characterized by the use of columns and other classical motifs as well as a general simplicity and balance in design. An iconic example is the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., which was designed in the late 18th century with wide avenues and monumental public buildings in the neoclassical style. In the mid-19th century, there was a growing interest in medieval architecture, which led to the popularity of Gothic Revivalism. This style is characterized by pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and a general sense of verticality. A prominent example is Trinity Church in New York City, which was designed by architect Richard Upjohn and is considered to be one of the finest examples of Gothic Revival architecture in the United States. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, new architectural styles emerged such as Romanticism and the Beaux-Arts. Romantic architecture is characterized by an interest in nature and a departure from the strict rules of classical architecture. The Beaux-Arts style, on the other hand, is a highly eclectic style that borrows from a variety of historical periods. In the mid-20th century, the United States saw the rise of modern architecture, which rejects traditional styles in favor of new materials and technologies. The most important innovations were the use of steel, glass, and reinforced concrete, which allowed architects to create buildings of unprecedented height and complexity. Notable examples of modern architecture in the United States include the Seagram Building in New York City and the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. Since the mid-20th century, American architecture has continued to experiment with new materials and technologies. Postmodern architecture, for example, is a style that emerged in the late 20th century as a reaction against the perceived coldness of modern architecture. This style is highly diverse, but some common characteristics include the use of bright colors, playful forms, and historical references. Today, American architecture is highly diverse, and there are many different styles and movements that have emerged since the early 20th century. From the iconic skyscrapers of Manhattan to the historic buildings of Boston and Philadelphia, the United States is home to some of the most important and influential architecture in the world. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, and leave a comment below to let me know what you thought of the video or to suggest future topics. See you next time.